Well, hello, Madison Area Public Library. Thanks for joining me today. Today we're drawing superheroes, and I want to thank Miss Nikita for inviting me to be here. If you have regular copy paper, I would encourage you to draw on that. Also, use a pencil and draw nice and light. Don't add a lot of pressure. We can always do that later. Now, let's begin drawing. Okay, so if you're new to drawing comic book characters, superheroes, this is called How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. And this is the book that I learned a lot about how to draw. It's a great book if you can get a copy of it. It's older now, but it really breaks it down nicely. Shows you how to use shapes, which we're going to go over that in a little bit, and how to just even perspective. It's just got a little bit of everything in there. So really, this is a good book if you can get a hold of it. And if you can't, there are many books on drawing superheroes, and you can learn from those as well. How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way by Stan Lee and John Buscema. John Buscema. Sorry, John. So let's get started with some basic drawing ideas. So we're going to use shapes. Now this is going to be super basic, but just hang with me because we're going to start building on it. So I mean, if I wanted to draw, I could just watch for a moment as I draw some shapes. I could add a circle on top of a square and a triangle. And you notice that I'm trying to draw nice and light and loose. You don't want to get all tight and stiffen up. So we've got our shapes here. Now we have some options. We could think of these as our building blocks. We could add some more shapes. We could get real creative by adding. We could cut out of our shapes. So I could add a circle here, and this is a way of cutting out of my square. So you think of it as building blocks. You think of it as clay that you can sculpt with. I just took a cut out of that square. I could take a triangle on top of this circle, and I cut out a slice there, and I added on a rectangle here. And now I'm going to darken these shapes, and let's stay pretty rigid here, but then maybe when I come down here I'm going to add a curve line, and I'm just going to really press a little bit harder now. And by doing this, I'm creating something totally new. I'm not sure what it is, but it's kind of cool looking, and it shows that I don't need to just draw with geometrical shapes. I can use those and create new shapes. So now, instead of just being limited to circles and squares and triangles, I have all kinds of shapes that I can use. And we're going to see also that if I had a circle, and that's a two-dimensional shape, and I were to divide it in half vertically and horizontally, I still have a two-dimensional circle. But if I wanted to turn that into a sphere, I would curve this vertical line, and I would imagine that it's going around the sphere like that. I could also imagine that this horizontal line is wrapping around the sphere. So now it looks a little more three-dimensional. It doesn't look so two-dimensional. And of course, if I added some shading to it, then it's going to look even more three-dimensional. So it gives that illusion of being three-dimensional. Maybe instead of this triangle, I'm going to add another dimension to it. And now that looks three-dimensional. I could also imagine that maybe there's a square on the bottom. If you could see through it, we could also put an oval for the base. And now I've got a cone, and I could shade that in like that. And now I've got a three-dimensional looking cone. For the square, we're going to come back at an angle, and the rule is that this line is kind of the base. Just for, I mean, there's perspective drawing. We're not going to get into that right now, but this line needs to be parallel to this one, and the line here needs to be parallel to that one as well. And then the line that goes in the back is going to be parallel to this one. So that's just a very brief overview of three-dimensional shapes, but it's pretty cool how we can use two-dimensional shapes to come up with something new, and we can do the same for three-dimensional. I'll do just a quick example of that. We started with a square, and we added a circle, and then we added a triangle to the top of that. And let's just see what we can come up with. I'm just doing this quickly. But now we can wrap our skin around it. I can even remove, we'll take a cut out of that cube. And now we can wrap the skin around it. And we're coming up with a pretty unique looking shape. What is it? I have no idea. But I'll give it a little bit of shading. And it's just a nice way to build some new shapes. So think about using these shapes as ways to build up your character. And I'll give you another example of that as we actually get to drawing the bodies. But I just wanted to start by showing you that. You notice that it's really nice to draw lightly and messy. Don't worry about being so tight and precise, and it just stiffens everything up. Keep it light, keep it loose, and one of the nice things about that is when you draw light and you decide, yeah, I think I like that cube, and you want to tighten up in some areas, well, then you just press a little bit harder, and you've got what you want. And the shading comes in when we use the side of the pencil. We just scrape it across, and this takes a little bit of practice. But you can get better at applying pressure, and you can get little gradations of shading in, and it turns out pretty cool. It's amazing with just a pencil and some paper what you can come up with. So that's how to use the shapes and how to make them look a little more three-dimensional. And let's talk a little bit about proportions now. All right, let's get started with proportions. To do our proportions, we're going to turn the paper sideways, and we need 8 boxes. So I'm going to go to the 1-inch mark. We'll start at the beginning, and we're just going to make little marks at every inch. And we've got our 8 boxes. If you want to get really precise, you could get a T-square out and a triangle, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to lightly put in some lines because this is going to help us with our proportions. So go ahead and get that sheet of paper out, and this part we are doing together, so make sure you do that. Alright, so we've got our proportions now, and we're going to mark them just so we know what where each box is. Okay, so now we have 8 boxes. And this is really going to help us out with our proportions. Now we want to draw our stick figure superhero. And generally when you draw humans, you draw them in heads. So you would think of a person that is, you measure them in heads basically. An average head might be a foot in length. So the way we would measure an average human who is 6 feet tall, we would measure them in heads. So that you would have 6 heads stacked on top of each other to get a 6-foot tall person. But we're not just drawing an average person, we're drawing a superhero. So yes, we are going to make them 8 feet tall. And it's going to be fun. Let's get started with the head. And it's not going to totally fill up the first box, but we're just drawing, and for now an oval is fine, really. Let me show you briefly how we would draw a human head. We would have a circle, maybe a smaller circle under that. And then that we would have the head shape that way. But for now, a small oval is fine. Okay, so now we have head in box 1. Next, we're going to draw very lightly, because these are just guidelines. We're going to draw the center line of the body, but actually before we do that, we'll draw the waist area. That'll be in box 4, and it's not going to fill the whole box. Maybe in about, maybe it's 3/4 of the box. We're going to draw the waist area. We're going to connect the two with a line, nice and lightly. Not a part of the finished drawing. And then we want to put the shoulders in. And this is going to feel very technical and very nerdy, but trust me, it's really going to make your drawings turn out a lot better. So we want the shoulders to be equally apart, symmetrical. And the way to figure out where to put those shoulders in, it's going to be 3.5 heads wide. Remember, we measure in heads. So if this is the width of the head, then we need to add, so we've got 1 head in the middle, we've got 1 on the side, 1 on the other side. We now have 3 heads. And then we're going to add 1/2 a head. And the shoulder is going to come down just a little bit. It's not going to be right in the top of block 2. It'll come down, looks like a quarter of the way down, and we've got our shoulder there. And let's just go ahead and connect those two so we know that's kind of the collarbone area. Let's draw some legs. And you notice that I'm drawing these little circles. Now, why would we draw little circles? The circles actually represent the joints. So anytime I see a little circle, I know that I can be flexible. I can move. That part is movable. So we're going to come down to the middle of block 6 and at a slight angle outward, we're going to come down with some stick figure legs, and we'll put 2 more circles for the knees. Knees in the middle of block 6. We're going to carry those legs all the way down to the middle of block 8. And then we'll have 2 lines come out. Now it's going to represent the feet. Let's draw the arms. The arms are going to come down to the middle of block 8. We've got the elbow there. We'll do the same over here. I'm going to have the arm come out slightly. And then we'll go back to this first arm, and it's going to come down to about the end of block 4. This arm I'm going to have go up. So now he's holding his arm up. Let's draw the rib cage in, and that's going to come down to the middle of block 3. So we'll draw a rectangle for now. Rectangle will be fine. We're going to make it look a little more human in a moment, but for now we're going to put that block in there. Let's go from the hips straight up, and that's going to give us the stomach area. Well, these are the proportions, and it works out pretty good for our male character. Now we want to start building this character so that he looks more organic, less mechanical, and we can just use our basic shapes for that. So we'll start with some shoulders, and we'll put some ovals in. They kind of go up towards the face. Biceps, we'll add some more ovals. For the forearms, we'll put some upside down triangles. Still looking machine-like, but that's all right. We can always come back and change it. We're going to add some ovals for the thighs. We'll put some more upside down triangles for the calf area. And we'll put some ovals in for the feet. Let's put some curved lines here. We're gonna have a little sculpting to do. We've got to make this work, but for now we're just kind of laying it out. We're gonna sculpt this area now. We'll put some lines for the rib cage, and we'll curve down to the waist area. So now we've kind of laid it out. Let's actually put some proportions in for the face. We'll go halfway down the face. Anybody know what part goes there? A lot of people think it's the nose, but actually it's not. It's the eyes. For now, we'll just put some dots for the eyes. We'll go halfway down again for the nose, and then halfway down and just up a little bit for the mouth. I'm going to put some ovals in for the eyes. And that way, we just get an idea. For the neck, we're going to come out. And we're going to put some curved lines here. And the shoulder will round out here. So now we're going to look a little more critically at some of the shapes that we chose. we chose a triangle for the forearm. I don't know about you, but when I look at my forearm, I don't see angles pointing out like that. So now this is where we go back to our earlier exercise, and we used all these random shapes, and we started cutting away and forming it, and that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to put a light circle in there. Now watch this forearm. I'm going to start cutting off, shave down that point. I'm going to round it out. And the best way to go about this part is to get out a comic book, get out a picture of a real human, and start to see how the body is laid out. I'm going to put, for now, we'll just put kind of a square in here for the arm, for the hand, I mean. And we can always come back and add. I want to make that bicep a little bit bigger. Okay, we're going to put some curve lines in for the pecs. We'll come back to this side. And we're just going to start adding some more of those curve lines because, again, we're not trying to build a robot. We're trying to build a character that's believable. It's kind of a rectangle here for the hand, and it's going to come down. And we'll add an oval for the thumb. So it looks like our character is holding up a fist. And then we'll come work our way down the body. And we've got our oval, and the thigh is not exactly an oval. There's different muscles. So we'll put some U's, letter U's, over the knee. We'll put an upside down U here. And we're going to round it out. We'll put a U in for the crotch area. We're going to curve around. We're just really going to add some mass to these thighs. So now they're not exactly ovals. They look, it's a different shape. Once again, we can build our own shapes. For these calves, I'm going to curve it down. And for the feet, we're just going to make some shapes that represent the feet. And once again, get out a book, and I'm just kind of making these up now, but you can be a little more precise and draw something that looks a little more like feet. And that's it. I mean, we can add some more shapes in here. To define the body. Got to have a six-pack in there. This wouldn't be a superhero if there wasn't a six-pack. And that's how you would lay it out. Now the beauty of, and every time a comic book artist is doing a layout, he's probably, they're not laying out these blocks. He or she has gotten so good at drawing that they're drawing, stick figures. But let me show you. Remember how we used those circles for the joints? It's pretty cool because now I can make my character in any kind of pose. And I know that I can bend at these joints. And this is a great way to do it. Someone's trying to reach something, or they're going to fly. Going straight up into the air. now it's just a matter of adding those shapes, and I'll do one quickly here. And it's just so much easier to lay out these stick figures. It's a way of thinking without drawing. You just lay it out, and you come back, and it gives it life. It keeps it from being stiff. You can always come back and sharpen it up. But the stick figure is a great way to get started by drawing. And once you get these proportions down, I recommend going over the proportions a couple of times. Get familiar with it, and then before you know it, you're just drawing. You're not thinking about it as much. It just kind of becomes a second nature. And it's just a great way to feel more comfortable drawing the body. So that's our male character, and we'll come back and we'll add some details to the male character. But why don't we do we'll lay out some more proportions, and this time we're going to draw a female character. So we're going to go back. We need to measure out the blocks again. So we'll come to about here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we'll go straight across the page. Some light lines. Now for a female character, we are just going to assume that she is incredibly strong. So we generally don't emphasize the muscles on a female character. If you look at Wonder Woman or Black Widow or any other character that you might be familiar with, they generally aren't bulky. They're drawn more feminine. So you can draw your character any way you want, but today we're going to draw more of the popular approach of just drawing them a little more feminine. We'll start with our circle, our oval I should say, and we'll make it just a little bit smaller. And we're going to try that egg shape that we talked about before. So it's going to curve down, come to a point, curve back up. And let's number these two just so we know what we're doing here. We can just refer and keep going. We're going to go with 8 heads again. So yes, we're drawing an 8-foot woman. We're going to go to the waist in block 4. And it's going to be a little wider for the female character. We'll connect the dots, straight line. For the shoulders, we're going to go with 3 heads wide. We'll lay that out, 1, 2, 3, and maybe in just a little bit. The shoulders are just a little closer together. And we'll come down again. So we've got the shoulders there. We can add that collarbone area and get rid of these lines because we don't really need them. We will put the arm, same, about to the middle of 3, and then we'll put down to almost the bottom of 4. And maybe I'll have her have both arms down like that. The legs are going to be the same proportions. We've got the hips down to the middle of 6. And then we've got the knees, and they're going to go down to the middle of 8. And actually, I like the way this is kind of straight and this is bent a little bit. And I'm going to exaggerate that just a little bit so that it's a little more interesting. Less stiff. Okay, so for the male, we drew the nice big rib cage. For the female, it's going to be the middle of 3, but maybe up slightly. And we'll use kind of a half oval here. So everything's just a little more delicate for the female character. The neck is going to be a lot thinner. And it's going to curve down to the shoulder. The arms, we'll start with some ovals here. We'll add some ovals to the top part for the forearm. We're going to come down, curve around that rib cage, and then we're going to curve in. And then for the waist area, it's going to curve in and curve out. We're going to draw those thighs, and they're going to be, we can use those ovals for now. We can always come back and change it up. We're going to use some ovals for the top parts of those calves. And the same as before with the feet, just a little bit smaller. Got one going off to the side and one coming out at this angle. So these are the proportions. I'm going to widen out the waist area. All right, so then we go back and we kind of make some adjustments a little bit. Curve down for this thigh area. And we're just going for less stiff of a body. There should be a little more of a flow to our character. This is a little thick, so we'll just cut that down a little bit. Make those legs match just a little more. Let's thicken this one up slightly. Okay. Got the neck area. We'll draw those muscles in, but we're not exaggerating them. So it's coming down. Deltoid is a little curve here at the armpit. Round out for the bicep. And it's going to curve around and in. A lot of S's when you realize it. It kind of curves out and in. See that S, backwards S. And then for the hands, we'll just draw some squares right now. Okay, halfway down for the eyes, halfway down for the nose, halfway down and up a little for the mouth. Put the eyes in. Chest area, we'll put some curved lines just to represent the chest. And we'll make that head just a little bit larger. So we see how the stick figure is pretty much the same. Just need to make a little adjustments here. The stick figure is pretty much the same, just a slight adjustments that we had to make. But that pretty much, it's pretty much the same. And we can add some details now. You know, we can add some costume and things like that. We'll do that in just a moment. All right, let's go back to our first character, and he's pretty generic, and this is where we start to have some fun and we create a new character. And I'm going to use some ideas that I got from a workshop that I led before, where everybody was shooting out ideas, and they kind of described his eyes kind of like that, kind of like a mysterious looking. And then we can just indicate the nose here. And we've got the mouth here. We'll put a lower lip in. We're going to put in a nice size chin. And the jaw. Let's see if I can come in a little closer here. Just so you can see a little bit of the detail now. So we've got the cheekbone comes out and it goes in down towards the chin. And then I'm going to come down and over for the jaw area. And so they came up with that. They came up with a hood. So the hood's going to wrap around the face. And I believe he had a shark fin on top. So we'll put the fin on top. And that hood is going to loosely wrap around the head. I'm just going to come back to the front here. And then I'm going to shade in inside of that hood just so that it looks a little more clear as to what we're doing. I'll shade the hood a little bit. Let's see what else they had. I think they wanted a nice size utility belt, so we'll add that to our character. Just put in a square here and a couple of rectangles. We've got our utility belt. It's going to wrap around from the hood. And the cape's going to come back this way. Give him a weapon. We can put a cylinder in his hand. Another circle. And we're going to give him a blade. I'm just kind of making this up as I go. We'll put an oval here. And we're going to put it in a very unique looking shape of sword. As doing art for a while now, I've learned to just go with it and to have fun with it. You never know where your ideas will take you. You might look back at it and say, it's really not a good idea. I don't like it. And if that's the case, it's all right. You just move on to the next idea. But if you don't ever let yourself get a little crazy, you just don't know what you're missing. You may come up with some cool stuff. I'm going to have some gloves come down, kind of copy the shark fin idea, using some curved triangles. I guess it's kind of like Batman, but not totally. I'm going to shade those in. We've got the cape. This is where holding the pencil closer to the eraser is helpful, because then you're going to get a better flow of line, which is exactly what you want if you're drawing something like a cape. So I'm going to curve around. Letter S. Maybe I'll curve this slightly back. Curve. That looks like it's blowing in the wind. We'll add some shading to that in just a moment. We'll come back to the the boot area. I'm going to have a point going up to the kneecap. Again, I'm just trying to be inspired by the idea of a fin. Almost like he has flipper type boots or something. I'll shade that in just a little bit. Darker towards the top, lighter as it gets to the bottom, just for some interest. I don't think I'll do much here. We'll shade in the back. That gives it a little more contrast. So we've got the body is light, and the cape is going to be a little bit darker. Helps the body stand out better. I believe we came up with Sharkman as the name for this character. It's going to be darker. This is like part of the cape that comes over. This is the inside of the cape. We could add some shading to the body just to make it a little more dimensional if we wanted to. And I would shade these muscles as though I would treat each part separately. I see an oval here, I see an oval here, kind of an oval here. All right, he is missing his logo, so we'll put that logo in. We have to know who he is. I'll put an oval in. We'll go with a S M. And then I'll shade in that oval. And there is Sharkman. Trust me, you don't want to mess with him. Let's go back to our female character and we'll give her a little detail as well. Put her eyes in. Eyebrows. You don't want to emphasize the nose too much. Actually, the less is better, definitely for a female character. Let me get this right. That's better. So for the nose, we're just going to indicate it just by giving her some nostrils, maybe the lower part, maybe the top of the nose, and that's it. You're done. You don't want to add too much detail. The lip is kind of like a M. And then for the upper lip and for the lower lip, put that curved line underneath. And then you can shade that in slightly, but you don't want to do too much. All right, for the cheekbones, I'll curve it in. out from the eyes, down towards the chin. Put the chin in here. And then we will round out that jaw there. Okay. Trying to think of where I'm going to go with this one. I think I'm going to have her hair come down to the side, curve off this way. She's going to have some big hair. All right, let's give her a top. Let's come down here and it curves in. I'm going to give her some gloves. Back it up a little bit. All right, so we'll have some, we'll give her some gloves. Shade that in slightly. We'll give her a belt as well. Shade that in a little bit. Give her some boots. She has very long hair. Not very practical for fighting, but it'll work. Maybe she uses her hair as a weapon. And I'm going to give her a star. I don't know who this superhero is. Star Woman. Not sure who she is, but one thing I do know, you don't want to mess with her. Another star. And let's see, I think I'm going to give her a staff on the back. So, and you don't have to use rulers, but they do come in handy. I know that for comics, they often, when drawing the panels, many times they will draw them by hand, the lines of the panel, because, or if it's a building, they will draw in the lines because they don't want it to look, like organic and then like a machine did it. They want to keep the continuity of the drawing, so I'm not afraid to go freehand with the staff. I did lay it out with the ruler, but then I came back and did it by hand. And, we could continue and come up with some more ideas, but I think for now you get the idea. We've taken our stick figure, we've added some muscle, now we've added some costume, a little bit of costume, and helping our character just become a little more of who she eventually is going to be. Star Woman. I think before we go, I'm gonna do just a quick demonstration of how to draw the face. So it depends on your character, and so we'll draw two faces. We'll draw a male and a female. So the face is, as we said before, you start with the head, and it's basically an egg shape. And if you're not comfortable drawing egg shapes, you can start with a circle and add a smaller circle and curve it around, and you've got your egg shape. So let's draw, I'll tell you what, first I'm going to draw just the proportions of the head. So we've got our circle. We've got our circle below that one. We're going to make that egg shape. Now we begin, you don't have to erase, but I'm going to just do it so it's less confusing. So we've got our egg shape. We're going to divide it down the middle. That helps us to make sure that we're drawing symmetrically. We're going to come down from the top to the bottom, right in the middle. That's going to be the line for the eyes. Halfway down from the eyes to the chin is the nose. Halfway down from the nose to the chin, and then up just a little bit will be the mouth. The eyes are a little tricky. Just takes a little practice. You put an eye right in the middle, and then you put one on each side. And then in theory, I should be able to get another eye on each side. So you've got eyes, 5 eyes across. And that's a little weird, but now I know that I have the right dimension for the eye. The nose is going to be as wide as that center eye. The mouth is going to be about the same. So I'll put a curved line here. We'll put some curved lines on each side of that. And the mouth is right here. It's a flat M. We'll shade in that upper lip. And then the lower lip, we don't actually connect all the way to the mouth. We just goes up a little bit, gives the illusion that it's sticking out. The chin is going to come in right here. Cheekbone comes out from the eyes down to the chin. And then the jawbone comes down from the cheek and towards the chin. The ears go from the eye line to the nose line. So we can put that curve in there. And this is a good layout. These are the proportions for the face. So let's do the difference between a male and a female now. So we've got our egg shape for the male, and we've got another egg shape for the female. All right, we're going to divide these. Halfway down for the nose, halfway and then up a little bit for the mouth. 5 eyes across. Eyes to the nose is the ear. Eyes to the nose is the ear. We can have the neck come out from the mouth line. Comes down, and then we can draw the shoulder blades in there. Now we're going to use the same idea where we can add and carve and get the shape that we want. So when you're drawing the male character, think of it as boxy and rigid. Not a lot of curved lines. Okay, so the eyebrows, you could think of it as two ovals above the eyes. And we just mix it up a little bit so that they're not doing the exact same thing. Makes it a little more interesting. Okay, so the nose is going to come here. We can put a curve in there. Kind of put these quote mark. And again, you notice that everything's kind of straight and boxy. Actually, I'm going to come up just a little more for the mouth, for the upper lip. Lower lip does not connect. And then for the chin, I'm actually going to bring it down. So it's going to be longer than a normal face would be. The cheekbone is going to come out, and again, you see all those angles. The angle is coming down towards the chin. And then we're going to come down and in to the chin. The ears are going to be on the side. And then we can draw the hairline, wrapping it around that sphere. And then the neck on a normal human being might look something like this, but we're drawing a superhero. So we're going to come down from the ears. This is the top of the clavicle. It's kind of like a cord that comes down. So we've got a nice big strong character. At least that's the kind of character I want protecting me, somebody strong. So we're going to add the cape in. And that would be the basic layout for a male character. For the female, a lot of the same proportions, but we're going to use more curves now. And the eyes are a great way to show expression. So we're going to have some nice thick eyelashes. Again, great for that expression. The eyebrows are going to be in this area, much more thin. The nose is going to come out and land right there, but again, just very slight. I'm actually going to draw the nostrils maybe a line or two here, and that's it. Leave it alone. If you overdo it for the female character, it just doesn't look right. The mouth, put right here. We use that flattened M. We're going to put in the upper lip. We're going to make them a little more full than we did for the male. We can shade that upper lip in. And the lower lip's just going to be more round. Cheekbone is going to come out more round. Chin's going to come down a little bit, a little more pointy. And then the jaw is going to be like here. But again, it's going to be more round. The neck can be a little more, that's a little thick, a little more thin. And the hair is, it's great to hold the pencil closer to the end of it so that you can get more of those curved lines, more of a flow that way. And less controlled. In general, and when you're doing artwork, sometimes it's nice to have that contrast. You might be really tight where everything's real precise, and then another part of the drawing you want to loosen up. And it just makes it a little more interesting to look at. Using the side of the pencil for some shade. And that's pretty much the way I would think about drawing a male character and a female character. Could add a little shading in. If you're shading in the female, just be careful not to overdo it. You don't want to spend a half hour shading her upper lip. Just doesn't look right. This is a cheek that's coming down. It's overlapping the jaw. So those will be the main proportions for male versus female. Madison Area Public Library, thanks again for joining me. I hope you had a super time. If you'd like to learn more about drawing superheroes, check out a book at your library. If you'd like to see some more of my artwork, go to dangogh.art or my YouTube channel, dangogh.art. Thanks again from Ms. Nikita for inviting me to be here, and I'll see you next time.